alcohol is holding you back. Everybody is searching for optimal health. People are looking for peak performance. They're looking for more productivity in their work. They're looking for how to lose weight. They're trying to get all these things. And yet they're not realizing that this daily habit that they're doing, that the whole of society is normalizing, that is the one thing that will give them what they are looking for.
When you drink alcohol, it can pass into all the cells and tissues of your body. It is still toxic, okay? It produces substantial stress and damage to cells.
Man, 1 or 2 cocktails, I could feel the next day. I'm a little heavy-headed, I'm a little slower, I'm definitely dehydrated, slows down your metabolism, slows down your testosterone production. And I realized, why am I doing something that's putting me in a state that is undesirable and incongruent with the man that I want to be?
Alcohol is a really bad drug, you know. 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive.
You don't really suffer from alcoholism until you get sober. It's a progressive illness. The importance of doing the stuff that sober people do to manage the problems that come up in life, it becomes even more important.
I got kicked out of the house by my wife. I was living on my own somewhere. I did not want that. That scared the shit out of me. And she said, hey, you're not just going to the therapist now. You're just not just talking about this. You got to go somewhere and sort this shit out.
The cure for addiction is suffering. You suffer enough that something inside you goes, I'm done. And I'm lucky because I hit that point before I lost really the things that were the most important. It was not my career or money, it was my relationship with my kids. And when I felt as if it impacted them, since that day, I swear to Christ, I have not ever wanted to drink once.
You can't run from the things in your life that happen. That's all I've ever wanted to do, was just pretend they don't exist. Because that would be easier, right? No, it makes it worse because it will catch up with you. It always does. I didn't want to face everything, whether it be my own self-hatred. I have a wonderful life, but sometimes that doesn't match up to the way you feel about yourself. All I knew is if I was continuing to go down the road I would either end up dead or doing something really, really stupid.
No one wants to start out being a sloppy alcoholic that's in bed all day drinking or whatever, but it doesn't start out that way. It starts out fun, drinking, party, but it eventually gets there, and I just saw it will get there for me, and I just wanted to cut it off.
I never talked to my daughter about the effect my alcoholism had on her. I'm sure it was, she turned out great, but she had her mother and her grandmother to teach her manners. But if I start wallowing in guilt, which I do, I'll go down to a path where it's no good.
Alcohol is horrendous for sleep, right? Alcohol stops us going into deep sleep. Deep sleep is that needed part of sleep where the vast majority of neuroplasticity happens. Alcohol significantly inhibits your weight loss. It's 100% poison, therefore the liver must process that before it processes other fat loss.
So we have, on the one hand, the science, the irrefutable set of facts that show a really negative picture in terms of what this drug is doing to us. On the other hand, the more nefarious foe in this equation really is our social structure.
It is the social conditioning. It is $2 trillion of marketing. It is an entire machine which has spent decades upon decades upon decades of programming us to believe that this thing, this substance, is the source of our health, is the source of fun, happiness, of success, of everything.
There's a couple of common fallacies about sobriety. One of them being that people hit a bottom, and then that's that. And most addicts have many bottoms. The moment for me was really, I was about to start this movie, Zathura. I had just come off a really long press junket for Without a Paddle, where I traveled everywhere. I was like, oh, I need a week. I want a week vacation. I go with a friend to Hawaii. It's just a disastrous trip. I'm sick most of the time and I'm just hammered. When it's time to leave, I have a layover in San Francisco, Hawaii to San Francisco, then to LA. When I get to San Francisco, I'm so physically sick that I have to go to the bar. I'm like, I have to get some alcohol down. There's no way I'll make it onto this flight to LA. So I am very huddled into the corner of this bar and I'm just ordering Jack and Diets, and I'm like trying to get a few down so I can get on this flight. I'm so physically ill. And it is the proverbial, there's a mirror right here. And I have this moment where I kind of take stock of my life, and I am about to star in this movie, Zathura. They're paying me a ton of money. People recognize me at the airport. I'm doing everything I had dreamt of doing for 30 years. It all came true. And I am the least happy I've ever been in my life. I'm closest to not wanting to be alive as I've ever been. I feel grateful for this because I was able to say, oh, something much more profound is broken.
It's that awful thing that you hear every alcoholic talk about. And if they don't talk about it, they're lying. Like, you just become an awful human being. Like, you just, you're selfish. And I had a friend who'd been sober for 1,000,000 years, and I called him and I was like, hey man, like, you know, my life's in trouble. And he was like, why don't you get sober? And I was like, no, man. It's like I just need a new girlfriend. No, I need a girlfriend. He was like, why don't you get sober? And I was like, no, man. I just need a new job. If I get a job. And he's like, why don't you get sober? And I was like, no, man, it's the jelly donuts. Like, I gotta stop eating the jelly donuts and then I'll be fine. He was like, why don't you get sober?
This is a toxic behavior for me. And my whole life it held me back because I knew that I couldn't surrender to something nor give it up. I was a complete prisoner of my own behavior. And finally, 3.5 years ago, I was like, I can't do this anymore. That has led me to believe people can change because I wouldn't change for decades, 4 decades. So many years that the narrative was for me is this has a hold over you. You will never break this cycle. You are a prisoner of your own weakness. And the last 3.5 years have been so awesome. But I do believe people can one day say, I've been stuck in a shitty cycle that I'm totally aware of, and for whatever reason, I convinced myself it would fix itself one day. Whatever it is, I know people are capable of change.
And it just broke, and I went to a meeting, and then it is that thing where it's just, your life just changed and people are nice to you finally when no one's been nice to you. You've lived in a world like the drinking world and the kind of druggy world that I was in. Just everybody's miserable and they're all mean to each other constantly. You're just nasty all the time. And then you go to a meeting and people are like, hey man, and you're it's so confusingly wonderful.
Rehab really worked for me. Here's how my life works. And to actually just completely throw that away and start over, it's well, wait a minute, who am I without this? I can't talk to people. I'm anxious, I'm shy, I'm all of the stuff that I thought booze was helping me with. I don't really know who I am. You're searching for that thing that's gonna save you, and it's you, it's in you, it's already there. You just gotta find it and accept it.
Treatment was the best thing. It was always something I was very scared of, but I think I needed that community. It was my first sober Christmas, first sober New Year, and honestly, it was the best I've ever had.
Everything that you care to care about in your life gets better when you go sober. And this is from 2 people who had their drinking relatively under control.
I'd say within a few weeks, waking up with more energy, sleeping like a baby.
Because we're not filling our body with poison and all the calories that come in alcoholic drinks, physical body just starts to look better. Also, people's skin starts clearing up at this point. The redness in the skin can start getting better.
Once I stopped drinking, after about 4 months, I started to get even more focused in my work. I started to get leaner in my fitness, right? 6, 7, 8 months in, and I realized I'm sharper than a tack right now, I'm on fire.
All the cliche signs they hang up at the meetings, they're all true. And I found that out early on. Believe the cliches, because they're cliches for a reason. One day at a time, that's all I've got. If at any time I felt like drinking, I put it off for an hour or make myself call somebody. It never happened yet, but you're one day at a time. You're only sober one day at a time.